Well, again, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Limble's webinar today entitled A Modern Maintenance Success Story. Today, we have the privilege of hearing about one of our customers, Sargent Aerospace Defense's data-driven maintenance transformation. And I would imagine that everyone here probably understands that maintenance professionals are, by definition, problem solvers. And with access to modern tools and the right data to inform decision-making, honestly, people in this profession can transform maintenance into a critical driver of their organization's efficiency and productivity. That's really why Limble has the tagline that we do. We believe it to our core. We're empowering the unsung heroes, the people that honestly you don't even know are there unless you have a problem. And when you do have that problem, you're really glad that they're there. And so today, we're going to hear from Sargent Aerospace Defense's journey to success that also led them to become recent winners of Limble's 2024 Innovator Award. They were selected specifically for their innovative approach to implementing a modern and data-driven maintenance program, and they were able to elevate it to new heights, enabling them to really focus on and surpass many of the goals that they had. And so today, we're going to unpack the actionable strategies, the data, the tools that Sargent Aerospace used to empower their maintenance team, empower their unsung heroes to overcome existing challenges, and ultimately to enable continuous improvement so that they could take inspiration, so that you that are attending today can hopefully take some inspiration and drive success even in your own organizations. With all of that said, allow me to introduce our guest today, Ross Ferguson. Ross is a maintenance engineer at Sargent Aerospace and Defense, and there he assists with maintenance strategy. He helps oversee the health and safety program at his facility. He attended the University of Arizona, go Wildcats. He received a degree in management information systems with a minor in information science, technology, and the arts. And then prior to attending college, Ross served in the United States Navy, which I believe he'll talk about here in just a moment, as a hull maintenance technician, second class on board the USS Iwo Jima. And personally, thank you for your service, Ross. Just as a military kid myself, grateful for that. And we also want to highlight that amongst a high volume of nominations, Ross actually recently won Limble's Maintenance Hero Award for the Innovator category. And this is really well deserved on his part because Ross has taken really fresh approaches to old problems that many maintenance professionals and maintenance teams face. And he implemented creative solutions at Sargent Aerospace that have elevated their maintenance program in so many ways. And honestly, we're really excited that we could help celebrate and recognize all of his amazing work and accomplishments at Sargent Aerospace. So congratulations, Ross. And to introduce myself, I am an account executive here at Limble, also known as a product specialist. And I love helping to solve unique customer challenges with really just simple, innovative solutions that improve maintenance operations and make their lives easier. So before we dive in and go too much further, I do want to encourage everyone, please be willing to submit questions. There should be a button there at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions that you have. And we're going to have some dedicated time at the end of our session today for Q&A. And so would love to encourage you to do that so that we actually have some questions to answer. So in today's webinar, we are going to be discussing several things. We're going to be discussing the challenges that Sargent Aerospace experienced before Limble, steps that were taken to overcome them. We're going to be talking about outcomes and impact on the maintenance program. And we're going to obviously specifically be talking about how a CMMS or computerized maintenance management system can help. And so with all of that said, first and foremost, Ross, thank you for being here today. Really glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well. And thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, let me give just a quick background on the company that you work for, Ross. For Sargent Aerospace, for more than 100 years, this Tucson, Arizona-based company has distinguished itself as a leader in various commercial and military manufacturing, marine, and industrial sectors. The organization specializes in the design and production of highly specialized bearing and hydraulic actuation assemblies. And in addition to contributing components for various types of aircraft, Sargent has partnered specifically with Ross's background, the U.S. Navy, since the 1950s to support the construction of its nuclear submarine force. So kind of a cool fun fact about what they're able to have their hands in. And then more recently, Sargent's workforce of more than 400 had begun experiencing challenges as a result of their really just outdated and inefficient maintenance management system. Um, and so before we go too much further, Ross, I would love to actually just, I've talked a lot at the beginning here. I'd love to kind of put the ball in your court. I think it'd be great as we start off for a lot of our attendees to hear about yourself, your background, and really how you got into maintenance to begin with.
Sure, absolutely. Like you had said, my maintenance journey started during my time in the Navy. So when I joined the Navy, that first year that I was on board, I served as a maintenance person, just doing maintenance on all the various pumps and piping systems and things that my work center had owned. And after about a year, I stepped up. I was tired of doing the maintenance. I wanted to schedule and plan all of it. So I took the reins and I really started taking over that program and really diving into the scheduling and the planning of all of it. And that experience really helped me when I was applying here at Sargent. During my interview process, they did mention the CMMS and how that would be a project that I could be working on if I started here. So, and that's what ended up happening. I got hired here, thankfully. It's been a great 2 years that I've been here. And when I initially started here, I was on the software and automation team. And that's what drove me to start working on finding us a new CMMS.
So you were hitting the ground running from day one with this particular project then?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Day one, they said, we talked to you about this in the interview. Let's get started.
I love it. So how soon after you started were you on the phone with Limble specifically? And then how soon after that before you actually got it across the finish line for your team?
Yeah, absolutely. It was I'd say probably about a week or so after I started, having to do all the orientations and onboarding and whatnot. I really got to dive in and start my market research. Then Limble came up pretty quickly. It was definitely at the time when I was looking, it was an emerging product on the market. And when I started working with you guys initially, it was very good. The dedicated customer support was amazing, and it really just stood out amongst all the others during the whole assessment period for all the other CMMSs that we were looking at.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And obviously glad it worked out and we're here today. So,
Sure.
Well, now I'd actually like to really dive into the challenges that you experienced when you first started in Sargent Aerospace's maintenance team. I'd love for our attendees here at the webinar today to hear about what gaps you were seeing as a newcomer, specifically what some of that maybe low-hanging fruit was that you saw that you could come in and really get some early quick wins, as well as opportunities to tackle issues that you could see having a more long-term impact.
Yeah, definitely.
I know yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, one of the challenges that you specifically had mentioned as we were kind of prepping for today was the slow, outdated CMMS. It sounds like this was really an underlying, all-encompassing issue that created several other challenges. And before we go any further, I mean, these are actually pictures from your original system. And if that says anything of this, 1980s, 1990s software, I would love to hear kind of about that particular challenge and how you solved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, this interface kind of gives me .com era vibes a little bit, but yeah, we were using the CMMS at Sargent for about, I'd say 10 to 15 years prior to switching over to Limble. So it was something that we had used for a long time, but was very old. And I remember when I first started, I looked on the website to try to find information on the CMMS, and I couldn't even access the internet web page. It had crashed. So, and with the website crashing, the application would crash as well a lot. It was just very slow, very unreliable, and it just caused problems down the line for us.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Just having a system that you can't depend on is a big problem. Would you say that was probably one of the more lower hanging fruit things that could be solved pretty immediately with the new system?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I think just with some of the components of this application in the CMMS, there was a lot of room to grow with it, especially as we were moving along. So it certainly highlighted an opportunity for us to make a change and really see what kind of impact that would make here.
For sure. And then one of the other things that you had mentioned was the lack of visibility and insights from data. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit as well. And I believe this is a picture of somebody on your actual team.
Yes, yeah, that's our maintenance manager, Rick. And as you can tell, they would print hundreds of pages of work orders and all kinds of reports weekly to go through. And it took forever. I remember they would tell me that they'd come in the morning, fire up the CMMS application, try to load a report, and go get their coffee. And they'd have to wait a significant amount of time just for that report to
Mm,
load. So that caused a lot of issues and just a lot of disruptions with a lot of our operations. The old CMMS did have a lot of canned reports that we used, but it was, and then it had some customization capabilities to it. It was just very limited and not very flexible with what we were able to do. So we really
okay.
felt like our data was kind of going into a black hole, essentially, where we had
Mm,
all these things that we could track and we wanted to track. We just weren't really able to get what we wanted with our last CMMS.
okay. And then how were you? I mean, were you able to track things like your mean time between failure, your mean time to repair, those kinds of things? Were you able to track that within your CMMS, or how did you track some of those key metrics that are important for so many folks that are in the production space like you guys are?
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to track those with our old CMMS. So either they weren't being tracked at all, or it was something that we had to do with some kind of outside application, whether it was Excel or something else. So yeah, it it just really disrupted a lot of our operations that way.
Yeah, and I remember one of the things that you'd mentioned when you and I met offline was also the overdue PMs, which I've talked to a lot of folks in the industry that are using systems where that's an issue. Because you speak to that at all as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, with that data going into a black hole, we were losing a lot of visibility and access to things that we wanted to see, and that really created an opportunity for things to kind of get lost and within all of that. So it contributed to a larger backlog for us, lots of overdue PMs because of it. So it was really just a really big disruptor in a way for what we were trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of folks can relate to that. Another prominent challenge that you had mentioned was the lack of dedicated support and the high costs of trying to get that support. Speak to that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, like I had mentioned, when I first tried to access the website, this picture on the screen is pretty much what I saw. There was no way for me to kind of look into the program or reach out to anybody with any information about it. And during our time with our old CMMS, we had to rely on an outside contractor to help us with a lot of those things. Um, and a lot of times we would have quarterly or semi-annual visits with him, and he would come in
Hmm.
and make sure our system was running right, that our data was being backed up, answer any questions. But without that support kind of at our fingertips with the website or any other options, we kind of had to wait until he came around. We could reach out, but it was really hard to get things accomplished unless he was on site working with us to do that. So having that consultant, it was just another expense for us on top of
Yeah.
what we were paying with the CMMS, just because we weren't getting the kind of support that we really required to get what we wanted from it.
You actually had to hire someone else just to help advise you on how to operate your CMMS because it wasn't intuitive enough in and of itself.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And the CMMS company did not have a team of people that you could call or a dedicated person assigned to you or anything like that.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, and especially when I
Okay.
looked for information,
Right. And
nothing.
so, and did that even, if, would you say that there was even elements of that affected your ability to be efficient in your production because you're having to solve problems with your CMMS as opposed to actually just being able to get back to the line?
Yes, absolutely. It was came to a point where we were focusing a lot of our resources on trying to fix the CMMS rather than put those resources to actually fixing and maintaining our equipment.
Working for the CMMS rather than CMMS working for you. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
not ideal. Okay, understood. Well, thanks for sharing all those great insights, Ross. And I mean, really, what I'd like to do now is dive into what next steps you took to address all these challenges. after gathering all that initial intel. And it sounds like, man, you came in just drinking from a fire hose too. Like it's just day one and you're talking to CMMSs, you're hearing about all the problems. I'm sure you're getting complaints from everyone telling you about all the things they don't like, and making sure, with a lot of pressure on making sure that the next system really is checking all those boxes. So after doing that, that was you're operating on an old system, all the struggles that the team was facing with it. Would also love to get into how you rolled out changes across the team and help drive adoption of the new CMMS. And the primary reason I'd love to hear that from you is because I think one of the main things I hear on at least a weekly, if not a daily basis, when I'm talking to potential customers of Limble, or people just on the market for a CMMS in general, whether or not they come to Limble, is their biggest thing is, well, I've got some older guys on my team, or my team's used to doing it this particular way, or they'll use the old, cliche, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I don't know if I'm going to get the buy-in. So would love to hear specifically how you were able to get the adoption of this across your team.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'd mentioned, my first project when I started here was to replace the CMMS. So after that first week, it was just a mad dash to see what was out there, see what was on the market, see what could work for us, what couldn't. And in the past, managers really weren't impressed with the things that they were seeing. So that was just an additional challenge to really see what was new and what I could do to kind of change their mind, in case that was one of the obstacles that came up during that time. But yes, like you said, it was a challenge initially. You hit on all those points. We were using that old system for years, 10 to 15 years. So a lot of those things that we were doing, a lot of those processes were really baked in to a lot of the operations that they were doing. Change, it's not always very well received. So it was certainly a challenge to make sure that the system that we did present to them was going to be something that they would really get a lot of value out of. When I started searching, I kind of broke it down to about 8 or dwindled it down to about 8 options that we were looking at initially, and then just slowly started, taking some away, brought it down to top 5, picked a couple away, brought it down to top 3, and then that's when we really made our decision. So this whole process from searching for a CMMS to rolling out Limble took all in about 9 months for us. That all included exporting the data from our old system, importing that into Limble, training our people, both the technicians and the managers, how to use Limble, rolling it out to the shop floor, especially the work request portal, making sure that all the non-users for Limble were able to submit work requests. And all this, it went really well. A lot of that had to do with Limble's dedicated support team and just the help from my team here as well. And the 9 months, it was a lot faster than estimated. The consultant that we had, he kind of put a 2-year estimation time on that. So to be able to do that in 9 months, when he had come back as kind of a last visit and just to kind of see how things were going once we did get up and running, he just had mentioned that he was so impressed with how fast we were able to bring everything up line, and just how quickly and we were able to just get up and running with a new system against his 2-year timeline. Yeah.
And to be clear, you don't have to, do you still need a consultant to help you operate a CMMS?
Not at the moment, no. The support team with Limble is so good that we don't need that. But I did want to touch back and just kind of tell you why we chose Limble. The ease of use, I would probably say, was the biggest determinant. Something that I could present to the team and say, hey, look, this is how you do this. And, you get those oohs and ahs with how easy it is to do things.
I love those. Yeah.
It was great. Right. So it made it so much easier for them to adopt this new system and get excited about it too. Once they really started learning and getting into it, it started becoming something that they would get excited about, which I thought was really cool too, that they wanted to be in the system. They were curious about how it worked. They were willing to kind of learn the system and really kind of make it their own.
That's
But
awesome.
on Yeah, but on top of that, like I said, the customization with our old system was lacking a lot. So, and Limble's customization is, yeah, leaps and bounds over what we were using before. So to be able to really drill into the data, look and see what we want to see, as opposed to just, some canned reports that might work for most people, but not everybody.
Hmm.
That was a huge plus for us, was being able to not only look into the data, but look into what we wanted to see for the data.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one that with a lot of customers that I talk to, especially in your particular industry and in the production space, is there's a lot of systems out there that almost seem to, the way I've had a lot of customers explain it to me is I almost need a specialized degree just on how to use this particular system. So being able to pull out your own data and your own insights really with a few clicks of a button it can be really helpful.
Yeah, that was certainly my experience as well. Was some of these other systems, it seemed like you needed a dedicated, IT manager
Hmm.
or technician to kind of help you with all of this. And with Limble, we didn't really feel like that was the case at all.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so you said too that it took about 9 months overall, but would you say it was 9 months before you could start using Limble, or how quickly were you able to at least start using some of the functionality and start seeing some benefits after implementing?
Yeah. It took us about 3 months to bring all the data in, set up all of our PMs. We added a lot of logic into our PMs too, so that took a lot of, I guess, a big proportion of the
Sure.
prep time and implementation time for Limble. But yeah, we've been in it for about a year now, fully. But we saw the impact immediately when we were able to start tracking different metrics and things, just even after the first month, and seeing how many work requests were coming in compared to our old system. The impact was felt pretty quickly, pretty immediately after we really were up and running here.
Yeah. One of the bullet points there too is about implementing tablets with Limble for all your maintenance technicians. How did that process go for them of kind of being fully on paper to now working with a tablet? Because this can be one of the biggest things I hear too. Of, oh, I'm not going to get my guys to be able to use a phone or a tablet to do this. How did that process work for you?
Right. Yeah, that played exactly into the same situation before, with just adopting the system itself. Was I wanted to create a way for them to really do their maintenance and their tasks on the go, and not have to kind of go back and forth between printing out their next task and going and accomplishing it, and then going into the system and doing it. So I thought tablets would work really well for that. So we purchased tablets. I loaded Limble onto all of them. I gave all the technicians training on how to use it, and it's been really great so far. I know that our weekend maintenance guy, he really has adopted it, and that's been really great to see. But yeah, it's just so nice to see our maintenance personnel just on the floor with their tablets, looking at their tasks. They're able to do things on the go. Communication is seamless that way too. Um, so just having that portability and the on the
Hmm.
go kind of attitude with this, it really elevated our operations here quite a bit.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And was your weekend maintenance guy the one that you were kind of like, if anybody's going to be my holdout, he's going to be my holdout? Yeah. Okay. I saw that.
Surprisingly, yeah,
Yeah.
surprisingly, he was one of them. But yeah, he certainly picked it up quite a bit once he knew how easy it was to use.
That's awesome. Last thing before we move on though is I wanted to hear about this digital signage. What exactly does that look like in your context?
Yeah. So one thing that I had kind of noticed here was, uh, especially with our old system, communication was almost non-existent. A lot of people, especially like we said with the black hole for our data, it seemed like that for the outside customers as well. So people not knowing, what we were working on as a maintenance team, if their work requests were being addressed or not, there was really no visibility with that. So I thought it was a good idea to implement the custom dashboards with our digital signage here. And having the
Yeah.
ability to rotate the dashboards was a really great feature with Limble, because it just gives us an opportunity to cycle through different metrics and different things that all of our customers can see. And it just gives them an opportunity to look and see what we're working on. So I think that's great.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, to go from a place where even your executives and your administrators and management are having a hard time seeing any data to now everybody on your team can see all the data at really just at a bird's eye view and knows exactly how they're performing and where they need to improve and areas that they have improved and things like that. It even seems just good for morale.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great for morale. It gives, everybody here an idea of what we're working on, and it makes our workers feel appreciated for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, why don't we do this then? Let's take a look now at just really what matters most. Let's get down to the brass tacks. What outcomes did you see from implementing Limble as your new CMMS after clearly doing such an amazing job of rolling it out to the team?
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a significant impact both in performance and job satisfaction when we initially rolled out Limble. There's our weekend guy with his tablet, by the way.
I love it
on the screen. But yeah, going back to it, our entire team lives and breathes in Limble now. It increased our morale. A lot of our workers have less stress because they're able to do a lot of their work faster and quicker, and it gives them more time in their day to address different things, whether it's, personal things, emails, or whatever that they need to accomplish, or just, addressing other tasks in our backlog. And a lot of this has impacted our metrics as well. We're seeing a lot of positive metrics with this. Downtime is going down, less incidents of major downtime periods. We're seeing asset performance moving up as well due to our ability to track our PMs and our planned maintenance. And like I said with our old system, how our data went into a black hole, Limble is the complete opposite. I mean, the visibility that we have now is fantastic. We can now track things like all the open tasks we're working on, all the completed hours that our users are doing each week. We can look at upcoming PMs, so being able to see, hey, what's coming up next week, what's coming up next month. Just a few of those things that we're tracking now and have visibility, not just for our maintenance team, but even our leadership here and executives as well, to give them, insight to all of that as well.
Yeah.
The dashboards, like I had mentioned, that's a big thing for us as well. Not only do we use some of these dashboards to drive our meetings now, which I think is really cool, but we share dashboards across our team. So usually that's me. I'll come up, I'll make a dashboard and share it with the team. And that's really helpful for us because it gives, one centralized dashboard, one centralized location for our data that we're all looking at, that we all have visibility to. And it really just generates more understanding, more trust in what we're doing because of all of that.
Big time. And I mean, that data piece is so important, especially for so many people who hear that may be decision makers for your particular team. And you depend on that kind of data. But I think one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning, though, that I think is so underestimated is that the importance of the job satisfaction of your employees. Like your employee satisfaction went up, which means your turnover is going down because people like their job. Because of that, that's actually improving other data metrics as well, though. They have an easy to use system that allows your asset performance to go up. I just love how it's all tied in there. Like you make your employees' jobs easier, make it easy to do their job, and it's going to be good for the entire organization. So love that. Thank you for sharing all those insights there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next one, I'll kind of let you take it from here. The next one that you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like this says, we're able to easily track our asset performance, and it really enables us to make data-driven decisions now. So our maintenance team, we can analyze each incident of downtime. That's one of the metrics that we're tracking is any task that had downtime of more than an hour. And that's great because it really allows us to kind of do a deep dive and really understand the root cause of why some of these things are happening. So it gives us a chance to really address that right at the root rather than maybe some band-aids, in a way.
Yep.
It just helps us in general just make more informed decisions here. But it also has improved our talent management. It helps make a case for saying, hey, we have this much work coming up in the next few months, we have this many workers working this amount of time. So it kind of justifies us if we wanted to hire another person, wanted to bring somebody else on to help the team. All of that we're able to do, and it's hard to really emphasize how much having that visibility and data with Limble has just significantly improved our maintenance and facilities operations here.
Right. Because I'd imagine there's very few maintenance teams who wouldn't say that they could use an extra hand or two, right? But it's one thing to go to the boss, or it's one thing to go to the executives or your board and say, I need a new employee. I need two new employees. And they're like, yeah, but you don't, and we don't have the budget for it. But if you can go and say, actually, we will make more money. This is better for the bottom line. You have the data to back that up to show your increases in production. That's a different conversation.
It really is. It's a fantastic tool to really just validate what we want, what we're asking for in terms of that.
Yeah, big time. Great. Let's hear about how you guys were able to slash the admin work here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'd mentioned before, there was so much time spent trying to generate and print reports, especially the weekly paper reports. So implementing the tablet, and on top of that too, I should say, printing the work orders as well. Before a technician would go to a job, they'd print out the whole work order and instructions for that. So that's more admin work, when now they can just grab their tablet and go. They grab their tablet, they have access to all their tasks. They don't need to spend time printing out everything. They don't need to spend time going into the system and trying to close it out. All that is accomplished on the go with our tablets now. It's increasing our productivity because of that too, just because they have less time that they're spending doing all that admin work. It gives them time to address more of their work and more of the things that are going to make them better at their job. And yeah, just that instant access, I really can't emphasize that as much, that it's just a game changer for us.
Yeah. I mean, this is totally putting you on the spot, so you may not have an answer to this, but like, would you have even an estimate or a ballpark of like how many hours in a week you think might be saved for a general employee on your maintenance team from moving from what they were doing to what Limble was able to do and slashing that administrative work?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if I had to guess, based on how many members of our team and how much maybe admin work they were doing a day across our team, I'd probably estimate maybe 40 hours, just because, time generating reports, time printing out their work orders, all those little things add up to quite a bit, especially with the size of our teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's an entire employee right there, right? Like a whole nother employee for your team. Yeah. And it's not going to cost you as much to have a system like this as it would to hire somebody, onboard them, pay for the benefits and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing the savings that can offer. So
absolutely, yeah, 100%.
And then how about this ability to get ahead, plan ahead? Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. One thing I can say is our technicians love the calendar view. They love the ability to go into Limble, look at their calendar, and really see what they're doing or what's coming up for them. Another thing that we kind of implemented too was we used our priorities a little different, where we do color codes for the length of time or the estimated time for a work order, as opposed to, the priority, I guess. And that's a nice visual cue for them on their calendars to kind of plan their days. So, if they see a task that's bright pink, it's like, oh, we know that's a heavy hitter task that may have to be the only one they work on that day. Where if they see, a couple, yellow tasks, that tells them, oh, those will take a couple hours. So adding that in the addition to the calendar view, they know what they have on their plate, right? They get to see, what's coming up, what they can prep for. It helps with planning, any kind of allocation of resources that they would need to do in the future. I know that comes up quite a bit with our operations, just trying to figure out, hey, this is planned this day, but it's also a holiday weekend, or something's going on. So just having that ability to look ahead and really understand what's coming up, what we've got on our plate. It just helps us out in so many different ways, especially in planning and daily operations.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I mean, and just think being able to plan for your day too, and what's coming up tomorrow or what's coming up next week. There's so many intangibles associated with that. Like I talk to a lot of maintenance professionals that are plagued with just the anxiety. Like I can't take a day off work. I can't be sick. I can't go to my kid's ball game. Like those kinds of things, because it's constantly, well, what do I have to do? And I can't really remember it because I can't keep track of it all because there's no good way to do that right now. Or we're just doing it in pen and paper, or it's all getting lost in a black hole or something like that. And so, and I love that idea of color coding it, not based on what you would typically think of as a priority, but on how much time they have to spend. I'll use that when I demonstrate our product more now. That's super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
And yeah, you are spot on with all of that, all the intangibles. I mean, I feel like with maintenance work, a lot of it is reactionary in a way. So being able to plan, and have all that planned out rather than trying to react to everything that's happening. I would just imagine that makes our technicians' ease of mind just so much better, and able to focus on the things that they want to focus on, and the important tasks.
Absolutely. Big time. So man, it sounds like there was just a ton of impact across the team from all the changes that you implemented, including, boosting operational performance. You've got less downtime. You've got increased job satisfaction. You've got more informed decision making. You've got less administrative work and the ability to plan ahead for projects. I'd love to maybe hear, did you have any other results that you maybe didn't expect? Like these are some pretty standard results that you expect when you implement a system, at least a good system, that really does make the lives of your team easier. But did you have any other results you didn't expect outside of all these solid improvements that you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my unexpected result is more of a personal one. Sargent, we've been doing really well here. We're planning on expanding, and I was plucked from the software and automation team. As you can see, my title is now maintenance engineer. So the maintenance and facilities guys, they plucked me from the software and automation team to join them and really enhance Limble, help bring those operations, kind of keep them going, and move forward with what we're doing here with the new CMMS. But also, and part of that, the plan is for me to serve as the facilities manager at the new building. So it's great for me. Limble was a big part of that, and I know that a big consideration for me being the facilities manager was how successful we were with implementing Limble. So that's been just really, really great to do, and it's a great result from all this. Personally, I'm really appreciative.
Understanding it correctly, you implemented Limble, it goes great, you get a promotion.
Pretty much, that's it.
Love that. So folks, you heard it here first. You implement Limble, you'll get a promotion. I can't promise you that, so please don't take my but it's not unheard of. It has happened, and Ross is not the first person I've talked to where that's been the case. And so congratulations on the new role. That's very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Well, honestly, that's mainly the end. We're going to do some Q&A here in a second. So here's going to be a couple of shameless plugs, though, really quickly. Honestly, if after seeing this, after hearing Ross's story, Sargent Aerospace's story, if this is inspiring to you, if you are thinking like maybe Limble could be a good fit in our organization, and you want to put Sargent and Ross's words of wisdom into action with a game-changing CMMS in your own company, please feel free to reach out to our team. You can actually request a demo of our product by scanning that QR code. And then you're going to meet with a product specialist like myself, and we'll get back to you right away, probably the same day. And so feel free to, I'm going to leave that up there for just another second or two, but feel free to scan that. If there's any interest at all, and maybe just exploring what we're going to do in a meeting like that, we're going to dive into, man, what are the challenges that you're facing? What is the impact of those challenges on your bottom line? And what would it look like if we could turn that around for you? And really streamline your maintenance processes. So feel free to scan that. Or, of course, you can always go to our website, limblecmms.com, and there's lots of spots there. We'll make sure that button is nice and big for you to request a demo as well to meet with us. In addition to that, I have another QR code for you to download, and this is where you can download our big book of modern maintenance. And so to dive deeper into how maintenance experts like Sargent Aerospace and others have transformed challenges into success stories at their organizations with really specific, quantifiable results that they achieved, you can download this resource, the Big Book of Modern Maintenance. And so feel free to do that as well. And last but not least, we've kind of come to toward the end of our time, and now we have the opportunity to ask some questions. We did get one on our in the Q&A here, and so would love to go ahead and pose that one first. Can you share some examples of effective goal setting techniques in the maintenance field? Any thoughts there, Ross?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, especially in the maintenance field, goal setting techniques, using data, that's been a great one for us. But I would just say maybe, maybe taking, if it's especially a big goal, maybe trying to take little chunks of it and focus on those. In the meantime, all those will add up to the big picture. And sometimes that big picture can seem really daunting too, if it's a bigger goal that you're looking at. So in terms of strategies for that, I would just try to just reduce it and shrink it as much as you can, and just focus on what needs to be accomplished initially, and just what you need to do to kind of keep moving forward to accomplish that goal. Yeah, that's certainly something that I use when I'm looking at things like that for myself.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate that insight. And then one of the ones that we also got in the Q&A chat here was, are you able to show the digital signage, and how did you get it to your displays? I don't know if we'll be able. One of the pictures is from your digital signage, right? That we had in there?
I don't think so. Yeah, it
Okay.
would be tough. I can explain what we did.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah, so we just had a TV. We worked with our IT team here to set up little mini computers behind it that we can cast to the TV, and then we just pull up Limble on there, and we have a special account that we log into. It's a view only account, and we just use that to display all the dashboards that we want to show all of our users. So we have a TV in our maintenance, or near our maintenance team, so we have it showing there, and then we're working to expand that and show it to more areas of the facility.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And by the way, if you did want to reach out to me, connor.smith@limblecmms.com, if you want to have more of a conversation, or ask any more additional questions about kind of how you could do some of that, feel free to reach out. So another question I had, does Limble have the ability to geo-track and locate tools and assets in real time? So we do have a mapping feature that's available on our enterprise account. However, it's not like a GPS locator, so it's not going to track it in that way. Hopefully that answers that question. And I appreciate people chiming in here. This one is going to be specifically for you, Ross. This one comes from Joseph. What was the process that you guys went through to get the operations team to submit work tickets?
What was the process we went? I guess the way that I'm understanding that is the work request portal. So one thing that I did was I created a PowerPoint showing how to submit a work request. We print that out and we hand it out during our safety onboarding classes, or our safety orientations here when new hires start. So that gives them an opportunity to learn how to do that. And then I also added a quick link to our homepage that we use here that just takes them straight to the request portal. So just a communication on how to do that. Thankfully, the work request portal is so easy to use, especially compared to our old system. So it's just a matter of putting up a link, communicating how to submit work requests. And thankfully, like I said, Limble makes it so easy that not a lot needs to be explained. You just go to the link and submit. And a lot of our external users have found that much more helpful, especially considering how we had to do it with our old system. Just being able to click the link and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think maybe what might be helpful there too is, because how did the old process work? So before you implemented Limble and you have this old CMMS, what did the general process look like when maybe somebody from the operations team needed to communicate a problem to the maintenance team?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to speak on that as much as I can, just because I didn't personally experience it
Okay.
prior to starting here, but I know it was cumbersome. It was essentially the same where we had a link or some way to do it, but um, just from what I know, it was slow. It was hard to use, and um, so yeah, I just remember that they highlighted just how difficult it was to use,
Hmm.
and because of that, the people on the shop floor and everything else, they wouldn't utilize it to submit work requests. It just increased the more shoulder taps that we were getting. Um,
The shoulder taps. Yeah, absolutely.
right, and then with those shoulder taps, you're losing all that data. So if you had an asset that went down, that's not getting tracked because it's not getting put into the CMMS.
Yep.
Um, so there's so many things that come from that, but but yeah, just communication and implementing it.
Yeah, and I don't know, Joseph, your particular situation, but I know that Ross, when I meet with a lot of folks, this tends to be a recurring theme where they're like, "Well, we've done this kind of shoulder tap thing for so long, or we do a combination of text messaging, WhatsApp, email, shoulder taps. I don't know. I yell down the hall at the guy and say, 'This is broken. Come fix it.' And when he gets to it, he gets to it." And the idea can seem a little bit overwhelming at times to move away from that, even though it's in theory it's easier to actually get people in practice to stop doing the shoulder taps and just scan the QR code or click the link and submit the ticket. Can be the idea of that can seem cumbersome. And so did you have any of that pushback when you made that transition from shoulder tapping to Limble?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how hard it was to do with the old system. Trying to explain that again, they already kind of had it made up in their mind. It was set in stone. Like, yeah, this doesn't work, right? So trying to show them how easy it is to use, and the communication and all of that. Once they saw how easy it was to use, kind of with our technicians here and using the system, that really eliminated a lot of the pushback that we had, to where they
Yep.
could just click on a link. It took less than a minute for them to submit something that was wrong, a work request or anything like that. So
Yep.
yeah, initially there was pushback just because of all the trauma, I guess, from the last system that we had. But once it was adopted initially, and people were starting to understand, hey, this is much easier to do, um, it became something that was really easy. And something that I like to tell people is, if it's not in Limble, it didn't happen. Just because that
Yeah.
tracking aspect is so important. So
Yep. Yep, absolutely. If it's not there, it didn't happen. It's really nice to just hear a satisfied customer saying that, because of course I'm going to tell people, right? Like, no, it's easy. I promise people are going to adopt it. But it's nice to talk to somebody who comes from a 100-year-old company. You've got a lot of folks who are set in their ways doing things, and the adoption has been so successful. So really appreciate that insight. Um,
sure.
the next question I can definitely answer, but Ross, I'd love for you to speak to this. So the question is, do you offer assistance to train the technicians on how to use the CMMS? What did the training look like for you with Limble?
Yeah. So I piggybacked off what Limble offered. When I was initially looking at Limble and researching them, I was on their YouTube page every day, looking at all the how-to tutorials, all the success stories. But part of that, Limble does have a technician training video, and it's great. It allows for them to pause and bring things up. It's really comprehensive and informative. So I kind of took that, I made it my own, and I just kind of went through and came up with an agenda on what things to highlight and to show them. And then the thing that I liked with Limble, the Limble video, I should say, that I piggyback was having that test work order. It's one thing to sit them down and show them how to do it, but give them a quick test. Say, hey, look, here's a test work order. Just show me how you would go in, accomplish it, complete it. And that was a kind of a good, verification, or saying, hey, this training went well.
Yeah, I love that. That's really helpful. Um, and we do have, so I can speak a little bit more as well. So when you come on board with Limble, you really have an entire team that's available to you. So you have a dedicated customer success manager, or CSMs is what they're called. And they're your primary point of contact. They're dedicated to you for the lifetime of your partnership with Limble, which is something a little bit unique in the industry. You don't just have access to them for a few weeks or months during the implementation phase, although that's when you'll meet with them the most. They continue to be a point of contact and a resource that you can lean on. However, of course, we always want to empower somebody specifically like Ross, who can be like the primary, as we call them internally at Limble, champion of Limble at the organization that can ultimately kind of spearhead some of that, because it's always better when you're hearing from somebody on your own team rather than somebody at an external organization. In addition to that, yes, we have tons of really well-produced training content on our website and on YouTube. In addition to that, we can offer group trainings. And then beyond that, we have 24-hour a day, and we've recently just went from 24/5, has just gone to 24/7 customer support. And another unique thing in the industry is that all of our support is in-house support. They're employees of Limble. They're North American based. We do not outsource that. And their response times are typically 60 seconds or less. And so even though this is a very intuitive system that you can typically run on your own, if you ever run into a snag or an issue or just an additional question or a functionality question on how to dig deeper, they're usually available within a matter of seconds to help you out. So.
Yeah, and I can speak on that too, if that's okay. Just
absolutely.
A quick, I've used that chat plenty of times to the point where I could guess which technician I was going to get, during the time of day I was asking something. But yeah, they're so helpful, and there hasn't been a single incident where they haven't been able to answer a question that I've had, depending into whether how complicated it is. I've always gotten an answer. So they're very good. They're very quick too. I've never had to wait more than 60 seconds at all, ever. It's usually pretty immediate. So
yeah,
it's been a huge help for us to have that.
Absolutely. The last question that I had here that I wanted to address that was kind of given offline was, are there any, I know this wasn't exactly your context, but I'd be curious to know if you have any insight into this. Any tips for how maintenance teams can effectively communicate their needs and challenges to upper management? This is such a relevant question, I think, because it is a very, very common experience for me to be doing a demo of Limble with someone, and they're like, I see the value. This is a 1 out of 10. This is a 12 priority for me. Like, we need this, but I don't know how to get the people that can ultimately sign the dotted line. I don't know how to get them on board. Do you have any tips for how maintenance teams can effectively communicate their needs and challenges to upper management?
Yeah. We certainly do that within our operations. We certainly do that. And I think that the data visibility really relies on that a lot. Just being able to show, hey, these are the things that are contributing to the issue that we have, and just making that so clear, with all the different types of widgets and ways you can display that data. It made it so helpful. But yeah, just in terms of the value that you get from switching a CMMS, that's a tough one. I got lucky. I didn't really have a lot of pushback or anything like that when I was trying to communicate that to my upper leadership. But I think that any way you can, put numbers or statistics behind that, and especially with something with Limble, it's very easy to do in that sense. To me, that seems like, the best way to communicate with upper management. That's kind of their language. So that's at least been my personal experience with that.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And then are you guys using Limble for PMs? This is a question from Mike. Are you guys using Limble for PMs based on calendar or runtime?
Oh, yes. So right now we are doing calendar, but we are in the process of setting up our metered condition-based PMs as well. Kind of speaking to that big goal. We're constantly evolving our maintenance here. So that's certainly the next thing we're tackling is the meter-based conditional maintenance, as well as adding sensors and using that to build our maintenance program.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you. From a safety perspective, did your Limble rollout help with OSHA reporting and overall workers' comp claims? Don't know if you'd be able to speak to that or not.
Yeah, we certainly have OSHA OSHA regulations and things included in our PMs. References to different OSHA statutes and whatnot. But in terms of workman's comp and things like that, that's not something we've explored quite yet. It's certainly interesting. I'd love to hear more about that, but at the moment, unfortunately, not.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, we are pretty much at the end of our time today. We've got a couple minutes left. I do want to, for those that are present today, go over here really quickly. Once the webinar ends here in a minute or so, there's going to be a short 1-minute survey that's going to pop up in the event lobby. And I know that not everybody wants to fill those out, but they really help us a ton. We'd appreciate your feedback there and encourage you to submit any topics that you'd like to see us discuss. Ultimately, these are for you. These are for our unsung heroes. These are for our maintenance professionals. And so if you could let us know what topics you'd like to see us discuss for future webinars, whether they're Limble specific or more broadly maintenance related, that would help you in your everyday job, that would help you maybe bring this to upper level management. Which the one thing I was going to say about that is the more metrics you can provide, the better. If you can show, how much time you're not, that you're wasting right now, or how much money is going out, or specific downtime metrics, or those kinds of things. And if we could, improve that by this percentage, it would save us this number of dollars. And Limble can save, on average, saves customers, 37% downtime reduction. Those kinds of things. Those metrics are usually key in getting upper management to be on board with that. But if you could fill out that 1-minute survey, that would be great. Ross, I did want to give you an opportunity after 1 second here. How is Limble? Oh, this would be a good one. We do have like 2 minutes left. So how has Limble helped improve your asset uptime?
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, it seems like a lot of our data and some of these PMs were becoming overdue in our like the data was going into a black hole. We were losing sight in tracking of our PMs. So being able to have more knowledge and more awareness of that has certainly allowed us to increase our preventive maintenance. And we think that increase in preventive maintenance is correlating to a better uptime. The more that we're out there with our planned maintenance, getting out there and maintaining our equipment is usually leading to less, work requests, less downtime for equipment. So yeah, that's what I would say is just more insight, more visibility to what PMs we're doing, how we're scheduling them. It's really kind of been a great way to elevate our equipment uptime.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Russ.
Absolutely.
Well, Ross, thank you so much. And thank you to Sargent for, being so generous with allowing us to use up an hour of your time today. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And obviously, again, to Ross for your time. We look forward to seeing you all in our next webinar. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.